Good morning, sir, and happy playoffs.
Well, thank you for wishing me the good morning. And let's talk about happy playoffs if we get us some wins here. And the first one starts with Tampa.
Now, and I know we're all excited for the playoffs. I was curious, and I feel like we might have talked about this before, is it's a clean slate for all the teams who made it into the tournament. But how much does the lack of success the last 26 postseasons weigh on you and the fans as well? Because I know you hear that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, at the end of the day, we want to do well during the season. And we really do. I have a problem dismissing the season as being meaningful and success in the season. I take a lot of pride in winning a football game and know what goes into it, and know that our fans, a lot of people have gone to major interest levels for us to put a regular season game on. So I put a lot of emphasis on regular season. But when we get to the postseason, then there's nothing wrong with putting all your energy and attention to the postseason. And if you want to carry that one step farther, direct it right on into Tampa Bay this weekend. And so I get excited about my town against your town. I get excited going into Washington or going into New York. I can get excited about that, just like I could get excited back when I was in high school and we were playing Little Rock. I went to school at North Little Rock. And, boy, that was a big deal to play that game. And I just zeroed my life at the time around getting to play in that game. Well, that's the way I feel about all of these games. So it's not a year-round, well, let's see what we do at the post. On the other hand, we all know the ultimate success is the Super Bowl. We know how hard they are to get, and the way to get there is by having success in the postseason. Starts against Tampa.
Now, speaking of our town versus their town, y'all will be traveling to their town despite having a significantly better record. What are your general thoughts about having to play a road game despite having a better record than the team you're playing?
Well, I like to think there is a home field advantage, and I think it probably there is, just to have that momentum. Michael Irvin used to say, I can hear them, each individual talking in the stands when I'm running down the field. So I think there's some advantage to that, but there's also a motivation in knowing that those stands have 80,000, 70,000, 65, whatever's in it. But there's roughly 20 to 30 million people watching these Cowboys play. And so I can easily see how a player can rise above, if you will, the influence of support right there in a stand and rise above it and get their mindset that there's 30 million people watching this game. And I know there's a few of them out there, Cowboy fans.
Jerry, I know this game is in a lot of these games where contributors have to show up. You have to have those other guys that do show up. But how big do the stars of this team have to show up on Monday night?
Well, I think as it turns out, the stars are address what I'm fixing to say. How big it is how healthy we are. No matter, and everyone is a star. Some are just bigger than others. But somebody that's going to do 30 plays for us, 45 plays for us out there, and take that critical role of whatever the position is, that's a star. And I'm not trying to diminish Dak Prescott or diminish Parsons or anyone like that, or Pollard, but still, they're all stars. We all got to have them play their absolute best when they get out there. But again, make no mistake about it, for them to be out there, for them to go down that field in a playoff game, you've got to be reminded that 75,000 young men played college football this year. 75,000. And there will be 400 of them taken in the draft. 2 years later, there won't be but about 125 of them playing in the NFL. So out of 75,000, just think of how rare those guys are to get to go down that field in that playoff game against Tampa.
Can you give us a picture of like what Troy Aikman was like the week of playoff games? Did he change or ramp things up as the stakes got higher from your memory?
Oh, I think that I always remember an intense Troy at all times around the football field, around the team, very intense. And I can remember a intense but personable, if you will, Michael Irvin. And they made quite a pair as you look for body language or as you look for temperament, getting ready to play an important game. But again, I only go to a playoff game or only go to a championship game when I think about literally focusing in on it, because there was so much more for those seasons to be there, so much more that went into it. I think I'm going to paraphrase Bill Parcells. Bill Parcells, when he retired, said, if I could start every season at playoff time, I'd never retire. If I could start at playoff time. It's just so hard to get around to it when I look down the road at all you have to do is to get ready for that playoff time. And I remember when he said that, I said, but aren't we glad that hard road to get to playoff time? Aren't we glad we get to be involved in this business? Aren't we glad we get to be involved in sport and be involved in football? And let me tell you something, that feels good in May too, and that feels good in April. So where am I going here? To me, it's just an elevation of something that's a privilege to get to be a part of.
Jerry, yesterday we decided we're most concerned about Chris Godwin taking over this game on Monday night. Talk about him.
Well, in what way are you concerned about it? Let me get further.
Okay, because we're worried about your cornerback situation opposite of Diggs.
Well, I think that the pluses that we have is we've played a lot of players this year. And you can call them young players, but we've played players that have gotten some valuable experience. And we've just got to get them in the right spot. And that to me is our challenge. We've got to get him out there and him and others at the right time when you've got Brady at quarterback. And we've got to have the right plan to put him up there. But I know what Chris Godwin is, and the coaches know what he is as far as his capabilities are concerned. And if he's in the right spot, Chris Godwin can be a real difference maker. He can create a turnover.
So when it comes to, you just mentioned Tom Brady, 45 years old, hasn't had the best season, has had to pass the ball most in NFL history in a season. What are your thoughts going against Tom Brady in the playoffs?
Well, I just think that it's not too big for him, and I'm saying that tongue in cheek. But that's important. The situation with all that's at stake, and he's in a series, and he's in the middle of a possession. And basically, it's just not too big for him. And man, that's I don't care whether it's football or business or what. You get somebody that they don't shake in their boots when they get down to a live or die situation. That guy's formidable competition in anything. And so confidence is what I think of him. I see a lot of confidence.
Jerry, I mean, it's interesting that you're talking about that, and you brought up Bill Parcells moments ago, because one of the things when I started working at the Cowboys website, I remember Parcells was saying, look, I want my guys to be the best at their position on that day. Do you think Dak has to be better than Tom Brady on Monday for the Cowboys to win?
Well, they don't play against each other. They do play against each other as a team. But the guys that are playing against Tom are the pass rush. And the guys that are playing against Tom are their battle to have the pass rush be effective against him, or the coverage out there. Now they're against Tom, and that's something that I'm sure they dream about. I mean, just to have on their mind constantly at this time, and That's everybody's job to think like that. If they'll do that, then over on the other side of the ball, Tyron Smith and Tyler Smith and those guys need to be thinking about who they're in front of. You've heard me say a lot of times now, this thing doesn't go too far past the guy in front of you. And you can talk about all the crowd, you can talk about all the television numbers, you can talk about all the influence out here. What you better be talking about is what you're doing today, Friday, to put in yourself so that it will come out. If you don't put it in there, it will not come out Monday. But if it's in there today, Friday, and Saturday, then it will come out on Monday. And so work today so that it will come out on Monday. And part of what might come out Monday is what we did if we don't look out against Washington. Or what might come out Monday is what we didn't do against Washington, and it's helping motivate us on Monday what we did Sunday before.
Now, when you brought up Tyler Smith and Tyron Smith and the offensive line in general, I'm kind of curious your thoughts. The running game has struggled the last 4 games, which coincides with the absence of Terrence Steele. How much has that injury hurt the running game, you feel?
Well, I think Terrence is having a outstanding career above expectation, and which says a lot, because that's it's pretty important. I mean, it's pretty impressive to be starting right tackle in the NFL. And so, first of all, he's playing to a high level. Anytime you got a player like that, you're going to miss him when he's not out there. Now, we were fortunate to have Tyron Smith available to be out there. And Tyron Smith has had some really, really outstanding plays. He's ahead of things regarding his pass protection, and he's really working and getting into our run blocking. And I look for him to continually to improve as, if you will, the proverbial rust or whatever you want to call it, as he gets back into where he was at the start of the season, which I think that he could be out there Monday night.
Do you feel like he has to improve from the Washington game Monday night for this thing to be successful?
No, I think that we all as a team, not just him, when you say he has to improve, can we win out there without everybody doing their best? It's as we get in the playoffs, unlikely. But I think that if you plays at the level that he's very capable of playing right now, take some of the things he didn't do as well last Sunday out, but put some of the things he did well last Sunday and get more of those in, and yeah, that'll win it.
Jerry, Tony Pollard said, I think it was in The Athletic, he said, when you make a plays in the playoff, they stick with you forever. They stick with everybody forever. And I think Kevin around here, Rangers World Series loss, Dez caught it, the Romo snap. There are a lot of things. There are also some good things. Dirk winning the title and everything. There's some good moments. But Jerry, for you, when you think of your history of the Cowboys, what is that playoff moment that's burned in your memory the most?
Well, I think that I would describe it like this. You can have a really impressive 2-yard run, as we all know, if you're a running back. And it can be very impressive. Something happens to that 2-yard run when it gets in a championship game, or it gets down where if you don't win, you go home and you're through for the year. That 2-yard run, every one of them is accentuated, just not exaggerated, but they become more. Zeke jumps up in there and he powers through there, and then he's got his feet still under him, but his head looks like he's down, and then doggone, he spins. That 2-yard run doing that compared to doing that opening day just gets bigger, and it feels bigger, and it is bigger. Because everything is on the line at that point for that game, and so that play has been really exaggerated, not exaggerated, but just sticks in your mind more. I can remember my college days, and I remember specific plays, and they were not necessarily a 98-yard run. They might have been a 2.5-yard run, or they might have been a key staying with the block one step longer. And those stick out as much or more than the 90-yard run in a other situation.
Talk with Jerry Jones right here on 105.3 The Fan. We were talking about this just a little bit ago. Is the 2023 Texas legislative session said they were going to talk about sports gambling in Texas. I personally support it, but nobody cares what I think. What are your thoughts about the legalization potential of sports gambling in the state of Texas?
Well, I think it's a really thing that needs to be addressed at this time. And one of the reasons why I think it does is because it's happening at this time. There's a huge amount of gaming going on in and around sports at this time. And so to have all of the benefits or all of the control over it, it needs to be basically recognized and parameters put on it and discipline put in it, and then also the benefits that go or can go in Texas could adhere to the right kind of people. Lower some property tax, certainly help educate our great state's children. All of those things can be enhanced by something that is presently going on in a big way. And we should be getting the benefit of it as citizens of Texas. Other states are. Other states surrounding us are. So it's a time, I think, for us to set the rules up and execute on it and get the benefits of it.
When you took the Cowboys over, the NFL looked very different in a lot of different ways, actually. But right now, scheduling looks pretty different. And Kevin brought up that you're playing on the road, even though you had a better record, but you're playing on Monday night during the playoffs. And that just seems, I couldn't have even thought of that whenever I was a kid, that Monday night would get a playoff, that kind of stage. Did you visualize anything like that when you bought into this league back then?
Specifically not, but generally I saw all kinds of ways, imaginative ways, that football could have a wider visibility. Later I've said this, I think, but we're at the time of the year when we apex our interest, and it's the fourth quarter of the year and the first part of the first quarter, and that's really the ideal time to get the decision makers in the country in front of the screens. That's time to get their attention. That's better than other times of the year. It's a more prosperous time of the year because people do a lot more financial decisions. It's Christmas time. It's that time. Number two, the game allows you to have unintrusive stops that you can give a little message about a service or a product. But more importantly, what I didn't see was how it could become a part of culture and become a part of society. Whoever thought that football could play the role that it plays with its visibility, and it does that because, frankly, tongue-in-cheek, but not tongue-in-cheek, year-round football is a soap opera all the time. And it has it has some of the faults of having that kind of visibility, but it has all the pluses. In other words, people are talking about this game directly or indirectly year-round, and that's a huge thing. I probably did not see the extent that it's the case today.
Now, you talked a lot about how healthy or how much healthier this team is getting going into Monday night's playoff game. I think we're all excited about that. I was curious, is there any internal reasons or any team reasons that will prevent Sam Williams from playing Monday after an arrest warrant was issued for his reckless driving? Is that something that would impact his game status on Monday from y'all's end?
Not as I sit here today, and I don't put that question in it that I know anything. As I see it today, nothing at all will do that. And as far as his availability is concerned. And again, I want to emphasize our availability and the time that our young players, he's a case in point, have gotten to spend on the field this year. That'll all really be a big asset for us when we line up Monday night. And we're in as good a shape as we were last year relative to availability and relative to playing young players or players that needed more play time. We're probably better off than we were this time last year. So when I look at the pluses, the condition of this team, the physical condition, the experience that the young players have on this team, all of that, we are really in great shape going into the playoffs.
And Jerry, last question before we let you go. You talked about it a little bit with Sean and RJ on Tuesday, and Bobby, the physicality of the playoffs and being able to do things that you want to do physically on the field. Is it important for the Cowboys to go in kind of with a bully mindset on Monday night against Tampa Bay?
Well, it's been known forever that if two players have to hit, the one going the fastest wins. So that's called cranking it up. That's intensity. And this game was designed to have the team that is trying the hardest have an edge, or trying to build the most, be the smartest relative to angles, relative to just own your game. And so if you get two teams, and believe you me, Tampa's going to be thinking that way too. Mm-hmm. You get two teams doing that, and it's more physical. It's just more physical, and playoffs are more physical.
Well, we appreciate the time as always, and best of luck going into Monday night. Obviously, a lot of anxious Cowboys fans are ready to go.
Enjoyed our visit, guys, very much.